I think it sometimes gets forgotten what the impact on the lives of people who become addicted to drugs really is. It's obviously a problem for our society because we have to deal with the criminal problems of arresting drug dealers, incarcerating them, of people who become addicted to drugs and end up basically leading very terribly maimed lives, resorting to crime themselves in order to supply their drug habit, unable to complete school, unable to have successful jobs, families, and so on, and all of the things that flow as a consequence of drug addiction. And it starts with a drug dealer selling drugs to a young person to start them down that road towards addiction. And we don't necessarily know, in fact, I don't think we do know very much about how to stop people once they become addicts, how to cure them of addiction, how to rehabilitate them. It takes decades from everything that I have read as we study this issue. It costs vast amounts of money. Much of it seems to be wasted on programs that do not work, but we will try almost anything to try to get someone off of drugs once they have become addicted to drugs. It is, therefore, this is one of those things, I think, where prevention is the key. If we're going to have any success at all, if we're going to prevent this problem, prevent people from becoming addicts, that's the answer. That's what we need to be doing, to focus on that. Secondly, back in 1989 and 1987 when this bill was first passed, and for a number of years in the 80s and 90s, the drugs probably that people were thinking about might have been marijuana, might have been some other kinds of things. But today, heavy-duty narcotics are the drugs that are spreading and are being sold by the drug dealers to young people. I basically spent much of my life assuming that narcotics users, heroin users, were older people. They weren't high school-aged people or junior high school-aged people. But today, the narcotics are being distributed and sold, and the addictions are being started by people in this much younger age group, and they're going to spend a lifetime that's going to be maimed. And it's not just that it hurts them personally, but it hurts everyone around them, their society, people they live with, their neighbors, their families, and so on. So I think we get lost a little bit on the technicalities of what we're talking about sometimes here. But the purpose is to try to stop people from becoming drug addicts. Not just to stop drug dealers from selling drugs. That's obviously a consequence of the objective to try to prevent addiction. It's not just to put drug dealers in jail for an extra year or something like that. The purposes of this ultimately is to try to prevent young people who we all recognize, and we've had lengthy discussions about the limited mental capacity of a 16, 17, 18-year-old to make judgments that are going to affect their lifetime. And we've had that discussion that people in that age group have diminished capacities compared to adults. And those are the very people that the drug dealers target to get them started on drugs, to be customers, to be perhaps future employees of the drug dealers and selling drugs yet to others. And it's that purpose that this legislation originally was intended to accomplish. It may have not been 100% successful, but I believe that it has been somewhat successful. And I think that to reduce the distance will significantly reduce the effectiveness of this kind of legislation, which is to try to separate the drug dealers from the schools and from the school children that they want to get access to. So I really do believe, however, that this is still a worthwhile piece of legislation to keep on our books. Thank you, Madam Speaker.